evidence of a good queen in there.
And we just swing it down, and by doing that, for a new beginner, this appears to me, in my opinion, to be... You guys have been asking me for a couple of years now to do a review, tell you what I think about this Flow Hive. This is a genuine Flow Hive. And I'm gonna be honest with you, there's a whole bunch of things that I love about it, and there's a whole bunch of things that I hate about it, and I haven't even put bees in it yet. So stay tuned all the way through this video, because together we're gonna put bees in it and get rolling. Now, if you've watched my channel for any amount of time, you know that I've spent a lot of time building beekeeping equipment, decades, and this was one of the tougher things to assemble. It did come with a good assembly guide, and if it wasn't that I had a whole shop full of tools and some things that I had to retrofit to make work, I think I would have been frustrating putting this thing together. I decided to go with a more of a natural varnish on it, less toxic varnish, and it's dried good before I put bees on it. I wanted to kind of get a natural wood look to it. I thought about painting it, but the wood is really pretty. That's one of the things I do like about the Flow Hive. It really is some high quality wood. And so right now, before I put bees in it, I'm just gonna tell you, the assembly was a pain in the butt for me. And it's not because it's difficult to assemble, it's so time consuming to assemble. I mean, it took me about 3 to 4 weeks to assemble it. It took me that long because I couldn't work nonstop on it. I was just finding in my busy schedule, 10 minutes here, half an hour here. So it took me a month to put it together. And some of the instructions are really clear, and some of the instructions are very vague. And so I can see that some people, like a new beginner that's never assembled equipment before, could have really gotten frustrated putting this together. It comes so unassembled. There's hardly nothing assembled. I want to also compare that if you were to buy an equal Langstroth hive, how many Langstroth hives you could have bought, including an extractor, and paid less than this 7-frame honey super. Essentially is what you're getting. So I'll do the numbers for you so you can see how much I paid and how much you can invest that money in a Langstroth hive and a extractor and actually come out way ahead. Now, I want you to know right up front, this is not a paid promotion. I want to be upfront and say that the Flow Hive people did offer to give me one totally free, which would have saved me well over $1,000 to make this video. But I'm glad I went ahead and paid my own money. I bought it myself. I paid for shipping. So I've got nothing in it that I have to, speak nice about because they gave it to me. So now it's just a fair evaluation. So this is not a paid promotion for Flow Hive. And so I think you're going to be surprised of the negative things that I feel about it already. And it's going to be maybe one of those videos where some of you are going to kind of comment and say, I can't believe David's hating on the Flow Hive. And I don't really think I'm going to hate on it too badly, but I think it's fair just to say right up front, especially for a new beginner that may want to, start with a Flow Hive, I want to put myself in a new beginner's shoes and say, what it would have felt like for a new beginner. So the first thing that I love about it is just the quality. I thought all the pieces are high quality. They should be for the money that you pay. It's high quality knobs and bracket, the wood. I really like the type of wood and the quality of the wood. None of the wood cracked on me when I screwed screws into it. Now, most of them I pre-drilled because I didn't want to splinter as I tightened it down. One thing I didn't like about the screws is they're stainless steel. I like stainless steel because it doesn't rust. I don't like it because it's not magnetic. So I couldn't really hold it on the tip of my screw gun and balance. I had to carefully balance every screw, and sometimes that was a bit awkward since it's not magnetic. But stainless steel, what can you do, right? But if you take a look, it's got a really nice roof on it. You have to assemble all these pieces, so don't think this is easy. Again, that's the one thing I hate most about the Flow Hive already. The assembly requirement is extremely high. You have to assemble everything. even the pieces of wood that trim off the legs down here, that's 2 pieces with 6 screws in it, four, maybe 6 screws, hard to get to. It's just a lot of assembly. Now, why is the Flow Hive so popular, or why are people talking about it so much? It's because of these 7 frames. Everything else in it is a Langstroth hive. Like if we take this honey super off. Oh, another thing I hate about it, it doesn't have any handles on the sides. It only had, see that, it's just no handles. And I don't know if you pick up hives a lot, but I like to pick up hives on the narrow part, 16¼ inches, instead of the 20 inches. It's easier for me to pick up something like this than it is something like that. Anyway, and the handles that they have on the front and back are little slits cut into it. Not bad, but a little different than I'm used to. But if you take this honey super off, which is the 7-frame honey super right here, you can see below it's just a typical Langstroth hive. And so for the money that I paid, I'm surprised that really all I'm getting are these 7 frames and the ability to turn a crank and for honey to flow out. So the most expensive thing about the Flow Hive, as I said, is the 7 frames that you can extract the honey from without having to remove them. And there they are right here. This little piece here becomes a shelf. You can take this and you can actually place it just like this down here. That's kind of handy. And that way when you're ready to harvest, you put your bottles here. Now, these are the frames that everybody talks about that are the ones where they split open and allow the honey to drain out through these little holes. Now, once you remove this cover, I was a little concerned about there was no window here. I kept thinking, where's the glass? Where's the plastic that goes here? But actually, these fit together so tightly that bees aren't going to be able to go through them. I mean, there's a little gap between them. I'm a little worried at times, but it looks too small for bees to pass out. So the frames themselves push together to form this window. They each have a little plastic tab where they meet. Now, these are the Flow Hive frames that really make the Flow Hive what it is. Like I've said before, everything else is a traditional Langstroth. You take this little piece off here, and so I'm assuming that you can do this with the top on. I'm sure you can. I'll have to test that out. So it's a simple process. Once you decide that these frames are capped over, how do you do that? The manual says there's several ways you can look in the windows in the side, or you may just have to pull up each frame and examine each frame independently. So there's still a lot of work. It's not as easy as just saying, I'm going to turn the crank and see if I get a jar of honey. But anyway, you have a tube like this when you get ready to extract the honey, and you pull off one of these circle tabs like that. Don't lose that. You need that for later to put back on. And I'm pretty sure you put it in like, yeah, you put it in like this. That should go exactly like that. Okay. I'm pushing that in, and that's a little awkward. I feel like I don't have the best of seal, but I can't really push that hard without feeling like I'm going to break something. But anyway, we've got that. Okay, I think that'll work okay. There's an angle that you're supposed to make sure the angle is right, a little bit of a degree of angle toward this tube where the honey will flow out. Now, the trick about the Flow Hive is the key. Now remember, we have not had any bees in here, so we're just getting a dry run on how this operates. You want to figure this out. The manual says figure out how to use it before you need to actually extract the honey. But here are the caps at the top. You want to take that cap off. Don't lose that. It comes with one extra one. Now, there's 2 levels in here. That wasn't really extremely clear to me, but there are 2 places that you could put this key, on the bottom or on the top between a 1/4 inch piece of plastic. Now, in our case, they're closed. And so it's important to realize that when you want to opening them actually spreads apart the middle, and it causes this honey and these cells all the way in this frame to drip down, out, and into your jar. So In our case, if we were ready to harvest it, if we were sure all of them were capped over, that the moisture level was 18%, then we would insert it into the bottom straight like this. And that's we insert it in here until it hits the back. Then we just swing it down, and by doing that, you can see this little plastic thing rises up, opening up the entire frame and allowing the honey to flow out. Now, when you turn it back, it doesn't go back. And I think that's something that people may not realize. So what you have to do to close it is actually take the rod out, put it above, and it's tricky to get it in there. It's kind of tight all the way back. But you have to take it and kind of wiggle it all the way back again. Now we have to turn it back to close it. I wish that was a little more clear. Maybe I just read the instructions too quickly. But when you're done with all of that and you've extracted your honey, you got to be sure and put the cap back on. Don't lose that. You got to be sure and take off the tube. And once the tube is off, you got to be sure and put this cap back on as well. One thing that I don't like is a lot of the manipulation is done down here with pushing the tubes in and out. And I have a lot of wiggle. And I feel like I can push really hard and break something. I don't know why that doesn't meet something back there better. It meets good at the top, but it doesn't meet good at the bottom. I'm a little concerned about that. But hopefully my cap is on good enough. So when you're done, then you got to put it all back together. And again, the top would be on here, but this little piece goes there. And then you take your shelf that we put down here, pop it out, and then put the shelf in order to close off. You don't want to leave that off. Bees don't like that much light. This little knob is a little awkward to work, but you have to make sure that it gets behind everything. So this piece here turns with a little spring on it, and it secures this free floating piece of wood here, and it holds the shelf / door that blocks the window there. I've mentioned this before, but I want to mention it again. Look at that, no handles on the sides. Now, it's not a big issue on this lower deep box because we do have a handle on the front and we do have a handle here. But take a look at the actual super. There's no handle on the side, no handle on the back. You only get one handle on the front. Now, I've tried to pick this up without any honey in it at all, and you can't do it. These aren't strong enough to use as handles, so I only get the one handle in the front. I don't understand that. So we're gonna head out to the bee yard and we're gonna find a place for this, and guess which bees we're gonna put in here. We're actually gonna use the bees that we looked at during the live stream. The hive that I went out to a day or two later after that live stream, it was ready to swarm, had swarm cells everywhere. And I made a split. I actually took about, I think, 5 frames out of there with the queen, and I put them in a 5-frame nuke. I'm gonna transfer those 5 frames into this box. We're gonna add 5 more frames as well. Now, I'm gonna add 1 frame of drawn comb to this box, and that will require, I think, 4 more frames. I believe this holds 10, I'll double check. And that will require this frame along with 4 that are undrawn like this, and we'll see how it goes. So let's get out in the bee yard. Oh, one more thing I wanted to say about the Flow Hive so far. And again, this is kind of like part 1. I'm gonna evaluate it once we can start getting these supers filled here and start extracting the honey through the little turning of the crank. But for now, one of the things I want to say that I think is paramount is that the Flow Hive is less idiot proof than a Langstroth. I mean, it seems like it would be idiot proof. You just throw bees in a box and turn a crank. But the assembly is a lot more tougher than a Langstroth. And I think operating it, a lot of little twists, buttons and turns and little windows and things. And, you know, forbid anything bad would happen with these little strings here, these little wires that hold these frames together. If something happens, it's all over. But there's a lot of moving kind of components to this that could go wrong. With a Langstroth, you don't have that. Now, they may not go wrong, maybe okay, but time will tell. But that's the one thing I'd like to say is that this is less idiot-proof. I'm not calling anybody an idiot. Let me just refer to myself. If I was just getting into beekeeping and I wasn't sure how beekeeping works, I wasn't sure what to call parts and pieces, I would feel like an idiot trying to make this sense out of this. I'm already a beekeeper, so it makes a lot of sense to me, the design and what's supposed to happen. So I think for a new beginner, this appears to me, in my opinion, to be more complicated than a simple Langstroth hive. And for the sake of just turning a crank and getting your honey without having the experience, the joy of actually uncapping the super frames with a knife and spinning it out in an extractor, I hate to give that up. I love that part of beekeeping, but you know, I understand if you're somebody that wants a quick way to throw bees in a box, you don't want to inspect them, you don't want to check for mites, you don't want to check for pests and diseases, you don't want to manage your bees, then this hive is probably for you. Although none of us as beekeepers would ever recommend you keep bees that way. You don't buy a dog, a pet, and never get shots, never feed it, never check on it, just throw it out in the yard and hope it survives. Bees need tender loving care. So the Flow Hive people, they don't advocate hands off. In their literature, they promote that you should be good managers of your bees, that you should regularly inspect your hive and so on. So it's only the threat of a beekeeper wanting to simplify beekeeping and not do anything that this may provide a catalyst for somebody to be hands-off in beekeeping. And that's what you should never do. You should never do. You should always be hands-on. But I think some people don't take beekeeping classes, they don't get the beekeeping education they need, and they might find if they throw bees in here, they might their first year have some honey, but then the second year their bees may crash from viruses, pests, and diseases. So it still requires maintenance. Now I'm pumped and excited. Let's go out in the field. Let's get some bees in this baby. This is the colony that we actually had on a live stream, and the next day I made a video where I actually made a split from the colony that we inspected during the live stream. Had a lot of queen cells, so I took that queen and made a 5-frame nuke out of it. This 5-frame nucleus now is going to go into the Flow Hive. That'll give it a little head start. Let's see how that goes. So a little bit of nectar stored on this outside frame. We'll drop that in there. We got our brood. And let's look for the queen. Make sure we see our queen that's marked to red. Look at all the eggs. Wow, look at that. Evidence of a good queen in there. Yeah, the brood's been emerging. It's not really spotty brood because we had some good brood, and you see pollen at the top. And here's a queen cell down at the bottom. But if you look in these queen cells, we don't see any type of larvae or anything in those cells. They are empty. Another good frame of brood. And there's our red queen that we marked when we transferred her over on that rainy day. So the queen is doing good. And we'll put one more frame in it. All right, there you go. So we got our frames down inside of our Flow Hive. That's exciting. Now let's put our queen excluder on. They need to build up. I noticed the Flow Hive manual said wait to add the super after they build up. And so with 5 frames here and drawn out with bees on it, it's not bad. I mean, I could go ahead and add I think I will go ahead and just add my super on there now. So you have to kind of, I don't know, pick it up by the corners and just squeeze it together. I really hate that. Now you may think that you'll never have to really fool much with lifting this Flow Hive honey super. But actually we will, because every time we do an inspection of the deep brood box, we have to remove this super with no handles to get down there. Am I missing something? And this gets full of honey and we need to inspect the lower box. This is going to be very awkward to manipulate without handles. Now, one of the ideas that I have about not having handles on the side is, if I want to move it, can I take this off? And now can I use this as a handle? I kind of like that idea. As long as I don't push that window too far, I think I can do that. Who knows, maybe the manual says to do that, but that would give me the ability to take this super off. So that's something I just thought about. That would work really well. I'm glad I thought about that. That'd be my handle. Is it on there straight? Okay. Now the top is held on by these screws that you can use your fingers to screw in to tighten it down. But I will say, wow, that hurts. That is not enough material to really get a good handle on to twist that. Let's see if I have a pair of pliers. I don't have a pair of pliers. I'm gonna put it in the slot of the hive tool. Is there enough room? Yeah. Well, we've about wrapped it up. I think they're going to get used to their new hive here, the new Flow Hive. I'm going to have to remove this now, walk away with it. That'd be their only choice to come and go. Guys, I really wanted to let you know that Sherry and I really love you guys joining us for our live streams every Thursday night at 7 p.m. We have a hoot on there every Thursday night, answering questions, teaching you guys. A lot of you are starting to really appreciate that live stream. And if you haven't checked it out, I'll leave a link in the description below. The next live stream, I'm going to show you how I extract honey. We're going to go out to a hive live. I'm going to pull off the honey frames that are capped over. I'm going to bring it back, uncap them, spin them in an extractor, bottle it. That'd be a fun live stream. You can ask me questions live as we do it and show you how I filter or strain my honey. Big live stream coming up this Thursday. I believe it's June the 1st, so be sure and check that out in the description below. Now, if you didn't see me make the video where I actually made this 5-frame nucleus from a colony that was about to swarm, check it out. It's right here in this video. It'll help you know how to control your swarms. I'll see you over here.